Okay, let's talk a little bit about writing a narrative. One of the big things I think people worry about when they start writing a narrative is that they want to tell this larger than life story or they feel pressured to. But it doesn't have to be like a Jumanji style story or a Goonie style story, right? It can be something that happens to you every day or some event that isn't super crazy, as long as it resonates with you. Because if it resonates with you, it's going to resonate with your audience. The other thing I want you guys to think about is just tell the details that matter. The other problem I see with writers sometimes is they want to tell you the entire story of the day. We all have that friend or relative who says, I've got this crazy story to tell you. And then they tell you what they had for breakfast. And then they tell you about the car ride to work. And you come to find out that the real crazy thing didn't even happen until like 8 o'clock that night, right? So just tell the details that matter. Get right to that moment that's impactful and really slow those details down for the reader, and you're going to have a much more engaging story if you do that, or narrative. The last thing I want to talk about is that in fiction, like short story, novel, play, poetry, that kind of thing, the narrative it comes in a theme, right? So you it's the writer's job to convey this to you, right, and leave the reader enough clues to get there, but it's still the reader's job to kind of figure out what those themes are, right? But in nonfiction, especially when you have a prompt, when you tell a story, when you use narrative, you have to have a clear connection to your thesis, right? You have to have some sort of commentary or some kind of connective words that really explain why you're using the story. What's the purpose behind it? How is it supporting your thesis or your claim or your overall purpose for writing? So I use the metaphor in my writing. I use the stair as a metaphor, and it's something I like to do often. I often like to kind of take a cliche metaphor and use something in the story to breathe new life into it. Now, even though that's a trick I like to use a lot as a writer, I don't know if I would have used it in this particular narrative had I not just read Everyday Leadership by Dudley. Okay, when he talks about the lollipop moment, and he uses giving that lollipop as a metaphor for these little everyday things that happen in our lives. So I'm really glad we read that before I started writing, because it really helped me get into that mindset of what's a writer move, like using a metaphor like that I can use in my writing. And I hope it made my writing better. And we're going to be doing that a lot. We're going to be doing a lot of looking at writers and looking at the little specific moves that they make that are unique to them and try to mimic them and just see how they work in our writing. The last thing I want to mention, I'd like a little bit of feedback about this, right? I'm a writer, but this isn't a finished draft, and I want to get some feedback from you guys about where I am. So the first thing I want to know is, did my metaphors support my argument and add depth to my writing piece? Okay, because while I liked using the stair metaphor, I'm not sure it gave it the oomph that I was looking for, that extra bit of flair or just deepen your understanding or connection to me. The second thing I did that was kind of a risk was I wrote in present tense. And I did that because I wanted you to feel the the tension that I felt as my son was going down the stairs, right? That suspense. But I also wanted you to put you in my shoes a little bit more, so we might have more connection. If you were in that moment with me, then maybe you'd feel a little bit more connected to me in that moment. So that's another move I made that I want to know whether or not it worked. And the last thing I want to know is, um, did I answer the prompt with my narrative? Did that story really answer the prompt? And did I have enough commentary, enough explanation as to how this story proves my thesis or my claims or supports it in there to really be convincing and engaging? So those are my three questions. I feel pretty confident about the present tense piece working and that I have enough commentary, but I still want your feedback on that. But the one thing I'm really worried about is that stair metaphor. Did it really work? So I'm going to be asking for you to give me some feedback on these things. And obviously we'll be working with other people in the class. You'll have some peer conferencing where you'll be getting feedback from them and obviously getting feedback from me as your teacher. So thanks. I look forward to hearing your feedback.